Hey everybody. Okay, so this is my 2001 Vette. Just got some Gumby wheels on it, and the idea here is to upgrade the shitty. Okay, they're not shitty brakes, but you know the wanting brakes. Definitely they are wanting, especially if you're going to track the car. Oh, my wife's here. Hey, Skeebies. Anyway, so I thought I'd catalog, you know, what's going to happen here. So these are the stock brakes, obviously with the Gumby wheels. Now these I spaced out. The rear I spaced out 7/8 of an inch. I actually got this off another forum member. I can't for the life of me remember the name, but I got to thank the guy. He was selling some black rims and tires off of his, and the spacers off of his C5, and he had them perfectly spaced, man. His so those are 7/8 and they're flush. They're flush with the wheel well. These are 5/8, and I just lifted the car up so it doesn't quite look right. So after I set it back down, it's not settled properly. But anyway, the front are spaced 5/8. Now the front I needed to get 2.5 inch long ARP studs, which was a pretty easy job. You know, if you just go to in fact, you just go to Harbor Freight. Let me see if I can just go in here and show you guys what I used to get those studs out. I would recommend, you know, I don't know how many of you guys do this, but if you take studs out by hammering them or using a air chisel, I would not do that because you could Brunel or make indentations in the wheel bearing race, you know. So you want to try to avoid that if you can. But this is a good tool for taking the studs out. You just stick it on there, and then there's a stud that goes in here. Screw it on, it just pushes it right out, nice and easy. So if you're planning on doing a brake conversion here with the C6Z brakes, you're going to need to, unless you get the right offset, you're going to need to space. If you get Gumbies, you're going to need to space them out. So these are 5/8 spaced. Anyway, okay, so all this to say, a whole bunch of talk. I know I even get annoyed at people that do that, so I apologize. There is the fitment. It actually fits perfectly fine. Now, I didn't need to change anything. There was some rumor going around that I needed to change the knuckle, because these calipers came off of a 2012 Grand Sport, and I guess in 2009 they changed the knuckle just a little bit. They made it a little bit more beefy. So if you take a look at your C5 knuckle and then compare it to this guy here, this is from a 2012 Grand Sport, but the guy only had one, so I couldn't get the second one from him, unfortunately, to replace it. This part right here is a hell of a lot more beefy on this knuckle versus the original C5. Like, this part is about this. Well, this is the same, but then it tapers in, gets thin, comes out, and gets thick again at this part. So, they're definitely a lot stronger. I think the reason they did that, from some of the research I did, was that under high braking loads and you know, when you're taking it to the track or something like that, this part flexes just a tiny bit. You know, so after they realized that was happening, the engineers went ahead and beefed that part up a bit. So anyway, nothing's gonna break though, so you're okay if you install it on your stock ones. You know, and they fit perfectly. Now, one thing I needed to do was, the guy that provided me with the calipers gave me the original bolts that, you know, bolted onto the knuckle. These are too long. They stick out too far. Now, I'm not sure if the Grand Sport had something mounted between the head of the bolt and the caliper, but these stick out a good, 3/8 of an inch past the caliper, and I couldn't quite tell, but it looked like it would interfere with the rotor. So I used the stock C5 bolts to mount it, and I think those flushed with the end of the threads on the caliper, so that worked perfectly. And yeah, so this is it. It fits perfectly fine. None of the brake lines are hooked up yet. This was all just preliminary fitment testing here, but I'm happy to report that they fit up just fine. With again with the spacer. So I can't wait to test these out. I'm super excited. I'll try and I'll go ahead and try and catalog the installation and everything later too. I don't know if that's available online. So, well, guys, all right. Peace out, and good wrenching, everybody. Back here with the installation. Got a little ahead here, but this stuff should be pretty straightforward for you guys. Here is the bare knuckle and hub. So far what I've done was I removed the rotor and the brake caliper and bracket. So this bracket, oh, is this right? No, it's right. Sorry. This bracket goes in here like this, and then the caliper sits in between that. So that's how that is. So you just take out these two 21mm bolts, those two big ones. So first you take out, actually sorry, the caliper. So that's those two 15mm bolts that hold the caliper in. Here's the caliper right here. I'm just going to set it there for now, install the brakes, and then do the brake lines later. But so you take those two 15mm out. You need a 15mm socket or wrench, and this 18mm to hold. Where is it? To hold this guy here. So you hold that, and then you unscrew that bolt. So, or unbolt the bolt. Anyway, after that, you take the two 21mm out. Take those two out. And what I'm going to do is, these are the new calipers. I'm going to go ahead and clean out the threads in here, which you should do. Look at that, because these are going to get Loctited in here. Okay, and the best cleaning you can do is using some alcohol. Don't use acetone or anything, because acetone will work great, but if you get it on the paint, it could start, getting the paint off, start taking the paint off. You don't want that. So I'm just going to do it without either one of those, because I'm just trying to get the dust out. I should be fine. And what you'll also need to do is, these are the ones that came with the calipers. This is from the 2012. These are a little too long. I think I said this in my previous video. So I'm going to use the original ones. And so what you'll want to do is take a wire brush to these, clean these threads out. And I'm going to do that here in a second. Alright, so anyway, these are cleaned out. I used my scribe here to take off some of the extra, I don't know if you can, I won't even focus on it, that's annoying. There was some extra stuff here on the threads that I got off with the scribe. Anyway, okay, so next thing is to throw on the, this is annoying because I don't have anybody to record for me. Put the caliper on. That's not the caliper, it's the rotor. Put the rotor on. And so next thing you're going to do is throw the caliper in there and bolt it up. So you want to do with these, what I'm doing with these anyway, is I'm throwing some, I've got some 271 here, and that is some really strong shit. You're almost causing this bolt and this thread to become one at this point. I mean, that's exaggerating, but it's really strong. Now, if you want to be able to take this off in the future, which you are going to want to do that, don't put too much. You know, just put a little bit on, you know, 3 or 4 of the threads here in a line, and on each one, and then torque those down to 125 foot-pounds. They're pretty good torque. Now, sometimes people run into this. Just be really careful. Once you put it on there, this stuff dries pretty fast. So tighten them up as soon as you can. Don't dawdle. Make sure you have all your tools sitting around that you need. And you're going to need a 21 millimeter and your torque wrench right there. Set it to 125 and go at it. And make sure you don't let it sit there, because it'll freeze up on you. And once it starts doing that, you have to take it out, clean it again, and reapply it. I'll be back after I put that on. All right, I'm back. So now they're on, the rotor and the caliper. So okay, so I was talking about these. I don't know if you can see them. These bolts right here. I think that's the bolt. Anyway, those are the bolts that hold on the caliper. We were talking about that earlier, and there's a concern with those about reusing them because they're torque to yield. Now, I think the concern with GM on these is actually that they come with paste that's on them that it's supposed to be like a thread locker, like this yellow stuff here. It was orange on the originals. Anyway, so the concern is that you're not gonna reapply Loctite. So the bolts are okay, you know, to use. Just put some Loctite on them. Make sure that you use you know what you're used to. I would at the very least use blue. But I'm gonna throw. Like I said, I threw red on there. I think that's, you know, a small amount of red is probably just where I want it. And you know, there you go. So that's on there. Now the only thing that needs to be done. These are the stock brake lines here. I got some steel braided that I'm going to go ahead and throw on there because I don't think these made up. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the back and start installing those too. And all right, that's it. They're on there. Look, everything's perfectly fine with the stock knuckle. Of course, the stock knuckle is not as strong, so I'm not tracking this anytime soon. When I do, I'm going to go ahead and put the newer knuckle on it that I had in my first video. So that should be I think 2009 and up. All right, guys. Well, I finally got to the back. The front's all done. Brake lines are all connected. Let's see. I don't know if you can see it. Well, maybe if I see if I can turn the light on. Oh, here's one. I think. Hold on. Well, strangely, it's not letting me do it. So, let me see here. I know what I can do to get some light. Yeah, that works. Too freaking bright. Here we go. That hopefully isn't too bright for you, but that right there is the bolt, the banjo bolt for the stainless steel line, 30 foot-pounds. These are C5 stainless steel lines that I put on here. Let's see, let me see if I can show you the brand so you don't have to wonder about that. Got it here. Got these from a local Corvette shop, actually. Stainless steel braided lines. This is the the brand is, again, apparently high performance. It doesn't really say much here. Oh, I guess they're Get a Grip. And there doesn't seem to be a part number. Unless, okay, here's the part number. There you go. If you guys need it, there it is. Which I do recommend it. You can't use the stock ones, or the you can use the stock ones, maybe. No, actually they're too short. Disregard. You can't use the stock C6 ones, is what I was getting at. So I don't know if you can see it, but right in the center there, it's a little embossed. You see how it sticks up? The stock fitting is concave there. So the C6 one is convex. The chassis fitting on this side is concave. So that's why you can't use the stock C6 one. And you should get some braided ones, because you're going to have to replace them anyway. The stock ones are a little short. So there you go. The banjo bolt, remember, is 30 foot-pounds. And just getting started here on the rear. So the rear, I took the caliper off already. Caliper is a little different on this side. This part on the bracket is actually, I was actually using a 5/8 wrench. That's just what I had handy, because the 18 was too big. So on this side, it's probably a metric too, but the 5/8 fits perfectly. So I put a 5/8 on here and a 15 millimeter for the bolt that holds on the caliper, and took that off right there. This is the bracket. This is the bracket bolt. That's 21 millimeters. These are they're on there good. So make sure you lift the car up so you can get a breaker bar under there. Make sure you lift it up high enough. Remember, whenever you're lifting it up, have a puck under there. You know, you don't want to. Is that even safe? That looks good. You don't want to jack up the pun intended on the aluminum, you know. So you don't want to jack up the aluminum. So there you go. All right, I'm going to take this off. I'm going to take the rotor out and install the new stuff, and go from there. All right. All right, all. Well, I want to apologize, and I want to apologize that I'm sorry I'm not able to record while I'm doing the work, but I just don't have any way of holding the phone. If I know there are a lot of YouTubers out there that do this sort of thing, so if you guys have any tips for me, hey, I'm happy to receive it. Like, if you have any ideas, or you know, things that I can do to help me in this endeavor to record my progress. Anyway, okay, so I've got the rear on, as you can see here. The steel braided line is kind of extended to its max here, but so is the control arm, so that's not a big deal. Once the car sits back down, it'll be okay. But let's see what I got here. Okay, we got those bolts again. Let's see here. These here, 125 inch-pounds, red Loctite. Okay, red Loctite's very tough. Like I said in the earlier video, just don't put too much, you know, because you want to be able to get them off in the future. But red is very good for keeping it on there. So, you know, just go with red. If you're comfortable with blue, blue's pretty good too. Just make sure you're torquing them down right, and you should be doing that anyway. But you know, 125 foot-pounds. I don't know if I think I may have said inch-pounds earlier, but I mean 125 foot-pounds for these two bolts that hold on the caliper. So, got the caliper on there and the rotor. So, we're all set. The flare nut is back here underneath this little actuator. That is an 11 millimeter, and I don't really know what the torque spec is on that, but there's no way I'm going to get a torque wrench in there anyway. So I just snugged it down pretty good. So that's about that. The brake line, where is it? It's back here somewhere. I don't know if you can see it, but it's right here. I don't know if you can see my finger, but anyway, 30 foot-pounds. just like the other ones there. So there, that's on. You know, got the car all jacked up now, and once I get the other side on, I'll be able to get started on the bleeding. So far so good, guys. Everything just bolts right up. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's all finished. There we go. Brake job there. Caliper got installed back here. They're all done. The brakes are in. I did a traditional brake bleed. I did use one of those vacuum pumps to suck through .4 for a little better temperature rating. So that's probably the only thing well, that's what I changed here. Just put some .4 in it and cleaned it up. The original fluid was pretty dirty, and you know, it was .3. So anyway, there she is. She looks good. So I'm going to take it out for a test drive and see what happens. And you know, keep me in your prayers. I'm sure it'll all be fine. All right, gentlemen.